So what happens after this? So you milk. We were in there this morning. We milked the cows. It goes on the truck. Where does it go from there?
Raw milk is illegal to buy and sell in Canada.
The dairy industry right now is pushing for A2 milk.
They make us dump it. And no matter how we stand up, so this time I'm going public.
Raw milk that was sold from a farm in Central Florida has made 21 people sick.
And we have the technology today to produce very safe raw milk and get it to every child who needs it in this country.
Food is getting more, it's getting more expensive, but it's not keeping up with the price of, like you say, your hay or your gas, especially.
You're going to see it keep up.
It's going to get bad.
It's going to get bad.
So I am really just curious about dairy farming in New Brunswick. So I don't know if you've seen, we have been quite heavy advocates for raw milk because of how good that we've seen that it is. There's a lot of research that talks about the benefits of raw milk. Was it something that your kids grew up just drinking out of the pail, or was it something that you were, scared is the wrong word, but was it something that you were making sure that everything was pasteurized going onto your table?
Well, when our kids got a little older, when they were up to 5 years old, we bought milk because the doctor recommended it. But as far as my generation, my sisters and I, we drank raw milk. We were brought up on it from the get-go, right up through. And I still drink raw milk. I'm not a big milk drinker, but if I wanted a glass of milk, I'd drink raw milk.
Well, what do you think the difference is and why people are, I think at this point it is kind of a fear of raw milk. And yes, there can be things like listeria and it can make people sick, but is that it, or is it something else that's really been propagandized?
Well, doctors talked about bad bacteria. And people that live in town that drink chlorinated water, that don't have any kind of bacteria in their system, you might as well say, because it's being killed by chlorinated liquid, they probably would be more susceptible to some kind of bacteria. But anybody I know down in like lower into Maine, even in New Hampshire, a lot of people are buying right from the farmer, and some of it's pretty high somatic cell, pretty high bacteria, and they don't have any issues. But these are probably more rural people buying milk. But as far as drinking out of my tank, I would have no problem, and I shouldn't say this, but I've had a few people drink it over the years and nobody had any issues with it. I'm not supposed to sell the milk.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's always, and what people will say is it's never a problem until it is.
Yes.
And that's why I say, if you're going to drink raw milk, know your farmer.
Yeah.
And that's what I want for all food, is for people to be able to know where their food comes from. You want to know that whether you're getting beef, whether you're getting chicken, whether you're getting milk or dairy products, that those animals were taken care of.
Yeah.
And you've got a small herd. You know all of your girls in there.
Yeah. Somatic cell is a big thing. And that's why the process on the milk has been.
What is this somatic cell count?
It's like your bacteria mastitis. So if you have a cow that has an injured quarter, or she might not have got milked out or didn't get dipped, she goes out and lays on dirt, and that bacteria will climb up in the bag, inflames the udder, and then it'll all clot. So sometimes it can be called acute mastitis. It can kill the cow within a few hours if it goes into their bloodstream, which your milk all comes from the bloodstream, is all formed from the bloodstream. So they can get that bad bacteria in there. And if you were to drink anything with that kind in there, you probably would be dead or really sick. And because I had a cow about 2 months ago come in, and she was pretty much done, and I hit her with heavy antibiotics. She never milked again, but she's alive, and I'm waiting to gain her up a little bit. The antibiotics are out of her system now, and I'll grind her for hamburger. But people, I would be real nervous of people that were in town that lived real cleanly lives.
I never thought about that. That chlorine thing is a good point. I never would have thought that having chlorine in your water would attribute to.
It's killing bacteria in your system, so you don't have good bacteria in there as much as the average Joe from the country to kill off bacteria coming into your body. So somebody drinking raw milk could really, especially if they were drinking it in big amounts.
Yeah.
I've heard other people over the years drinking large amounts, and then they will sometimes get the skitters and the shits, whatever you want to do.
You can run into problems.
But I had a funny story. My youngest fellow brought a young fellow out here at graduation time, and He was very lactose intolerant. Couldn't. So this was like 3 nights before graduation or two, and he sat down to supper, and we had a big chocolate cake. So he says, "So I wonder if I could drink that milk." And I said, "Well, they say that people who are lactose intolerant can drink raw milk." He said, "Oh, wow, cool, I'll try." So he's drinking this big glass. And I said, "But if you've got the shits tomorrow night at graduation, don't blame me." And he didn't. It didn't bother him, but I have seen people that would drink it and it would bother him. Actually, my father-in-law tried raw milk because he was having a little trouble, and it didn't seem to make any difference. He still, but it might be a health thing too, other than just the milk too. But
We found that, like, because I was always lactose intolerant, like one of those kids that whenever we'd get those little boxes in school of milk, that I couldn't drink it. I'd have to either take pills or just not drink them at all. And so we found that with our dairy animals, with our goats, we've been able to drink it no problem.
yeah. So and goat's milk's a little bit different. I don't know what it is, but some people can drink goat's milk over top of cow's milk, even raw, and it doesn't bother them. And I don't know if it's just the components, the way the components are, but I don't know exactly what the scientific difference is, but
From what I've heard, there's
more digestible, I guess. But the dairy industry right now is pushing for A2 milk, and it's for lactose intolerant people, really.
what is A2
It's
milk?
a higher butterfat milk when it comes right down to it. It's like Jersey cows and high butterfat cows. A2 milk is more digestible because of the fat in it. And for years, like they cut fat out of our milk, paying us for milk 10, 12 years ago, probably 20 years ago. And at the same time, Europe was putting fat back in because kids needed that fat to develop, the butterfat in the milk. And they were going paying on protein and wanting everybody to ship protein. Well, we ended up with a big high protein, powdered protein problems. What we did, all this powdered protein all over Canada, too much and nothing to do with it. Put it into cat food and dog food and stuff like that. But so they started paying us on butterfat again, and I might be wrong, but it's a lot to do with butterfat. Like high fat milk is more digestible than low fat milk. That's helping him. I think he's doing it on purpose.
So how does I'm so unfamiliar with the dairy industry. How does the quota system work? I've heard some guys complain about it. Heard some guys praise it because it works best. What is it?
Well, it guarantees us a base price for our milk that you can actually make a living on. Without it, when you have work on the world dairy price, it fluctuates so bad. Like any countries that have dissolved their quota system have ended up dire straits. The farmers are done, and the American farmers were in bad shape for right now. A lot of them are doing pretty good to subsidize heavy, but our system, it's expensive as far as new farmers getting in, and expansion is expensive. But once you are established, you're guaranteed a price. You still can fluctuate quite a bit on your butterfat. If you're low butterfat, you're going to make a lot less money. If you're high butterfat, you're going to do really well. It's going to pay premium on your milk. But as far as the quota system as a whole, it's keeping farmers in business. Without it, there would be no new tractors sitting in the yard.
Yeah.
There would be no fixing period. You'd just be done.
So you're guaranteed based on volume then, and then over and above, it's based on your butterfat?
Yeah. Like there's a set price that everybody's paid on, like your base price, and then with your components is where you make your more money. Like a Jersey herd running 5 to 6% butterfat would be making another 20, 30 cents on their milk.
Wow.
Where I'm not 100% sure where our base price is now. It's around $80 a hundredweight, like roughly 80 cents
Yeah.
a liter is what it is. But if you were running high butterfat, you can make up to $1. So it's quite a difference. It can make, on my herd, my size, it can make $6,000-7,000 difference. And if you're down low, which a few years ago this past winter, just the feed quality was bad because it rained all last summer. we struggled with butterfat. We've never ever struggled with butterfat. We always run 4.5, 4.4, and we had a hard time to get 4% last winter. But now with the feed this year, the starches are higher in it, and the energy's higher, and we're running 4%.
So you're a third generation dairy farmer?
Yeah, I'd say, might as well say that. My dad and grandfather farmed together, so
Okay.
they started milking when they shipped. My grandfather shipped cream, and when the cream quota was done, they switched it over. A certain amount of it switched over into dairy quota or MSQ, and there was two kinds at first, and then it switched to one kg of quota. But they when the barn burnt here, Dad and Grampy, they'd actually just started shipping milk out of our old barn before it burnt. Spent a whole bunch of money, never got the chance to go to town and put the insurance up, and the barn burnt. So we paid for two barns for all the time I was growing up. So that's sort of why the expansion here never ever happened, because, and then ground came available at $500 an acre, and when it's right in your yard, you can't let it go.
Yeah.
So you buy $900,000 worth of ground, and you have to pay for that. So it takes a while to pay for all that stuff.
What has kept you doing it over the years? I mean, surely there's been more than a few days, probably weeks and maybe even months where you're just like, this sucks. I can't keep going, like whether it's money or whether it's the hard work that goes into it.
Well, when I was young, I thought it was the way of life, my way of life, and I was offered to be paid to go to trade school for mechanics, and I was working, went out on early employment or work study, I guess, out of high school and to Patterson's, and was offered to send me to school, and I was like, I don't know that I want to sit inside in a greasy garage all the time. I want to be outdoors working. Which, now that I look at it, I should have went and got my mechanics license and at least did that. I would tell young fellas today, always have something back up. Always get an education of some kind, business or auto mechanics or a trade, because you're always going to use your trade when you're farming.
Diversify.
Yeah.
That's what you've done with the farm, is not just dairy, it's other stuff.
God blessed me with talents to fix stuff and mechanics and whatever. And when we were in high school, you took all the trades. So you took electrical and you took carpentry and so I've been able to do pretty much anything like that. Somebody asked me one day, how do you know how to fix all this stuff? I said, well, I learned a lot in high school, and then just from people I hung around with in high school, a lot of good fellows that were mechanical and electrical and carpentry skills, and I learned a lot from that, and a lot of it comes from grace of God, I guess.
Well, my experience with high school specifically was the exact opposite, because I remember I would love to have taken those classes, but I was always pushed by my parents to take your sciences. You got to do your sciences. And I was like, okay.
Well, science is important in farming too.
Well, and what happened was the classes for trades and sciences overlapped. So I wanted to do both. Yeah, so I never had that opportunity. So it was something that not until later in life, I mean, I'm in my 30s now, that I've started to, okay, I'm learning how to build walls and do carpentry and those little things that I didn't have the opportunity to do when I was younger. I mean, we did a little, I think it was grade 5, we built a little shelf, and it was this rickety thing that would fall over when you try to stand it up. But to be blessed with the opportunity to learn that through school, and I think that's something that you were able to teach your kids, was sort of the ability to work that hard.
Yeah, my kids, my boys, well, all my kids have good work ethic, and my boys have mechanical skills on both sides of the family, so they're all very talented at fixing stuff and building stuff. And Graham, when he was 10 years old, he was down the road with a load of manure, and he come back with grease all over his hands. He said, Dad, the manure spreader broke and I fixed it. And I was like, cool. And Mitch was probably running it because he's a couple years older, but Graham got up, fixed it, and I spread the rest of the load and come back. But I think probably what discouraged my boys from farming, well, you got to be an animal lover if you're going to milk cows. And Graham was an animal person. He liked the cows, but when it comes down to it, if you want to make a darn good living, you got to find something other than farming. Because at the end of the day, there's not a whole lot left over. And if you're going to raise a family, there's pros and cons to both. You can have your family working with you. You miss a lot of stuff. Or you can farm and your family raises itself pretty much. So I think he looked at that and said, well, I think I'll try something else. So and he never looked back. And Parker had a few times where he was interested in farming, but he farms now, but he farms potatoes. But he went to EBI. It's a show, big show in Truro where 4-H kids go, and he won back-to-back years. He won embryos. So I put an embryo in, a heifer, and she went not a full 9 months and calved with a dead heifer. Yeah. So if you're a kid and you're looking forward to that, that was
Yeah.
free money. Really. He won that, and it was a good quality embryo out of a big herd in PEI. He could have sold that for $3,000 or $4,000 as a grown heifer and went out the door. So that sort of discourages young people. That kind of stuff. You got to have, like you said, you got to have a willpower, and you got to have grit if you're going to do it every day, because a lot of days you come out and dead animals and stuff flew apart, and I've did it since I was 13, and there's a lot of days the last few years I said, what am I still doing this for? Yeah.
Why do you think there's not as much money in it as there maybe used to be?
Expense. Just like that load of shavings. 2 years ago that was $1,000. They unloaded it the other day, it was $2,000.
But then why are shavings going up, but food doesn't go? Everybody's got to eat. Not everybody needs shavings.
Well, parts.
Is it government subsidies? Like it's a question I don't necessarily know the answer to, but I've been trying to figure out that food isn't keeping up. Food is getting more, it's getting more expensive, but it's not keeping up with the price of, like you say, your hay or your gas, especially.
I think you're going to see it keep up.
It's going to get bad.
It's going to get bad. They can't pay $900 to $1,100 for a calf and not get big money on the other end. So somebody in the middle. I know some of these places where they're going, like Quebec subsidizes a lot of things heavily, but as far as New Brunswick, if you're buying a calf for $1,000, you're buying a calf for $1,000. You're not getting subsidized on that. But a lot of provinces are all different, of course, just like states are all different. But the state of Maine subsidized their dairy farms heavy, which is good for them. They've been buying replacement heifers out of New Brunswick, which they didn't do for quite a few years. So it's good for them. They can actually make a living. But a few years ago, there was a lot of farmers that were doing themselves in because they just couldn't do it. And they had debt load, and they just called her quits, and that's sad. Here, we do get a base price that's pretty good, but they could do better.
Yeah.
Because the middleman's still making a lot of money. There's a lot of money between your jug of milk and here. And when I look at farming as a whole, and as a McCain's contractor with potatoes, they're getting paid good money for their potato, which the dairy farmer is doing all right, but we could do better for what our product's worth and what the amount of work that's into the product and the amount of debt that you carry to make the product. We could be paid better, I think.
Do you think we're seeing a time, or we will see a time, where the middleman is going to get largely cut out? Because like I said earlier, we've got more and more people who are seeking out, okay, we want to buy direct from farmer, we want to know our farmers. Do you think that more and more people, I don't know if it'll ever reach a breaking point where it's going to make a difference, but do you think that more and more people are going to go to, okay, we want to buy direct from the farm, I'm willing to go into the boonies to buy from somebody's farm stand as opposed to going to my local grocery store?
That would be the downfall of the quota system, because we can't sell to the average Joe. Like, we can't sell to the neighbor. Not supposed to sell to the neighbor. We could give them a jug of milk, but that would be one downfall of the quota system. But as a whole, we got to make a living, and people complain about the price of milk in the store all the time, and it's always the farmer's fault. Well, it's not always the farmer's fault. It's a lot of stuff happens in between there. The store has to make a lot of money on it. The processor has to make a lot. Processors can't build new plants without borrowing money, without making a lot of money on our milk. And a lot of people go to college, send their kids to college on our milk. That's another problem with the quota system, I'd say, is that, we get a set price, but there's a lot of money made in between. And
So what happens after this? So we're in there this morning, we milk the cows, it goes on the truck. Where does it go from there? So what are all sort of the steps, or what do you know all the steps that goes through before it hits the shelf?
Well, it would go, any milk that would go to Egipure, most would go into fluid milk, but there's also plants that take your butterfat out to make cheese and your ice cream and take out your skim milk and all that stuff. And then, but if it goes to Dairytown, a plant like Dairytown, it would be made directly into butter or a cheese, and they would take out the cream. Some take out the cream and go to a butter plant, and some plants just are strictly fluid. So most of the Agipure milk would come right back down out of Quebec into the stores here, which is sad that we've lost, like our Baxter's plant and our Northumberland plant, that are not. I don't know. PEI is probably the best as far as they have a couple of their own private owners of plants, and they're getting their own product right back. Which here, our milk might never come back here. We don't know. It's when you go without a quota system, if you can develop all your own marketing and stuff, you get to brag about your product more than what we can brag about it. We can brag about Canadian milk being a good quality product, but you can't say, well, I know where my milk is. I have a rough idea, but it could be in Quebec. Somebody drinking it in Quebec, and that's hard sometimes as a farmer, because if somebody's complaining about a product in the store, it might be my milk, might not be my milk. I don't know what the next fellow down the road, what kind of milk he's shipping.
Yeah.
If his somatic cell's high or if his bacteria is high, it's all going into one truck. It's all tested at the end of the day to be healthy, and a good product. But still, some farmers are putting in a real top quality product, and some are putting in an average product, which if you were selling individual, had your own dairy or whatever, your own cheese or ice cream. We went to Pennsylvania in the spring and went to a farm that have really did well marketing ice cream, cheese, all kinds of. They had a coffee flavored milk, your chocolate milk, or strawberry flavored milk, and they were all really good. And they've been in business for years, and they've really established a great market. And that kind of thing, is sad that we can't do that here without going through a big bunch of loopholes and to get your own dairy. Like it is sad that we can't do. It's hard enough to be discouraging. So a lot of farmers say, well, we'll just sell to the big guys, but. And it's sort of sad that we can't, an individual, like if you wanted to milk 10 cows and sell to your neighbor with a cheese product, you have to go through quite a ordeal to do that, like lots of paperwork and stuff like that. So that is one downfall to the quota system. But if you're just a farmer wanting to farm, your quota system keeps you in business.
Do you think if more, specifically dairy farmers, had the capacity to, if legislation was different, that it was, okay, under a certain amount of liters, it doesn't necessarily need to go through all these checks in the same way, do you think potentially your kids would have been more interested in setting up a ice cream stand or setting up a little small cheese fromagerie or whatever?
Oh, I think probably there'd be a certain amount of farms that would be keen on that, real keen. Like when Graham's had their own dairy up here and they sold their chocolate milk, it was like, it's still good chocolate milk, but there's still a secret ingredient not in it that they didn't give, because it was the best chocolate milk ever. And you could brag on that kind of stuff, and probably it would keep family members more interested if you could do that kind of stuff. Yeah, I would say yeah.
Yeah, mate.
We died.
Battery died. There's another one in the battery box.
We're talking to them.
No, it's all right. I love these conversations because it's so important, I think, because milk and just food in general, good food, like what you're producing, it's like you said, it's hard that it's not coming back and you don't know where it's going.
Yeah,
like
that is one downfall. Like when you can brag about your own product, like I brag about the beef I sell. It's good beef. I brag about the hay I sell. If people come buy hay from me, it's not dusty, and they're feeding their animals, and they come back for more, and they don't mind paying a premium price for it. I like to do a good job, and it's nice to be complimented on it.
And you can get that immediate feedback. I mean, I've had your beef. It's amazing beef.
Yeah, and whereas with your milk, oh, I've had people get raw milk before that have said, "Gee, that's good milk," but just sit down at the table at dinner and have a glass of milk. It's one thing dairy farmers, if you come to their house for dinner, you probably won't get a glass of milk because they never have milk. And the milk truck's usually just left. Yeah.
But no, I appreciate this. Thank you. I've been looking forward to seeing a dairy farm for a while, and I think yours was the perfect operation. There's a lot of bigger ones that would have been a lot fancier, a lot cleaner. I think a little different than something you've got going.
They, well, we have an inspector come in twice a year, milk inspector, and used to be that was your actual folly that you didn't want to see come sometimes, but now we have a pro action program, which is good and bad. They the inspector used to be we had a grading system that you could, out of 100 you were scored your barn score, and a lot of people would run in the 90 percentile. You know, we were in the 90s when they had it, but now they don't have that. So now you're thinking, why don't you have that? You know, it gives you a standard that you want to be at. You know, they still give out awards for your best somatic cell and stuff like that. But as far as the barn score, there was one gentleman, he always run 98, 99. His barn was spotless, like you'd eat right off the floor. The walls were clean. But now the inspector 2 years ago said should wash our barn down, and this spring they came and said, you need to wash your barn down. They came this fall and said, gee, that's a nice day out there. And, oh, it's all right. Just let it go. Which, you know, if you're not having any problem with milk and bacteria problems with your milk, a little shit on the walls is not going to hurt your milk. That's not going to hurt your
That's
milk.
farming.
It's part of cleaning,
Yeah.
your udder clean, your tits clean, and your system clean, and everything internal clean. But now some of those things they should have kept, really, because it gives you a sense of pride if you get a high score in your barn. But when the inspector comes and says, I want to see this and this and this, and you show them, and they said, okay, and they don't look at anything else because they say, all your counts are good, your yard's clean, you're not wading mud to get to the door, we said, you're good. And that's makes you feel good too, because there are some places that are just a shithole.
Yeah. Literally.
They're getting less and less because you can't operate that way and send a crappy product and stay in business. It's just people do for a long time, but after a while it'll get you.
Yeah.
And some people just get discouraged and the workload's heavy. I get discouraged here some days. It's just too much to do and you want to get it done.
Yeah.
And you don't have the help and
Can't afford to pay the help even if you had it.
well, that's the thing. The wages have gone up, and I've got some real good neighbors that help me, and we trade back and forth, so that helps out a lot. It makes a big difference. And you got to have somebody that's got to not just coming for a job, but they want to do a good job. Because my wife always says, "You're just too fussy. You're just too fussy." But when you were brought up to do things to 100% or 110%, when somebody comes along, I'll tell you this story. Back when Tim Hortons first come out, there was some fellas come here with their coffee cup, standing at the door. Well, it was one of them mornings that things weren't going 100%. So Dad's milking cows along there, and everybody leaves, and he goes, "I'll tell you one thing. Anybody come lugging a coffee cup to the barn in the morning ain't worth a shit." And I often think of that because everybody lugs coffee cups here, but this fella don't lug no coffee cup to the barn. When I drink my coffee, I drink it there, and I don't come to the barn with it. 'Cause I remember that comment. But even Mom comes with a coffee cup. So, but that was just one of those days that he was in a bad mood. Oh well, those days happen. Yeah. But there's room for. The sad part is that the next generation, unless you don't find a lot of real hard working that are going to put 100% in 100% of the time. My brother-in-law says, I don't know that the next generation is going to put the effort in that you put in every day. I said, well, I don't know. When you miss birthday parties and you miss this, and I've had people ugly at me, you missed so-and-so's birthday. And I was like, stuff's got to be done. It's not that I wanted to miss it. Not that
Yeah.
I would have loved to have been there. I'd love to be able to go down the road and see my grandkids open their presents on Christmas morning, but chores got to be done.
Yeah.
I can go after, but they don't usually wait for after.
Fireman's not a 9 to 5. Fireman's a lifestyle more than anything, especially nowadays where you're not making as much money as you could.
Yeah. You could always make more money if you didn't carry debt. Debt's the killer of all farming. Yeah. There's the farmers that like to farm with low debt, and there's the farmers that don't care about debt, and they still get up in the morning and don't seem to worry about it. But personally, I'd like to carry no debt. On a personal level, I don't carry no debt because I like to be able to have a little money on the side. If somebody gets in a problem, I like to help them out.
Yeah.
So if I got $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 cash laying around that I can help somebody out when they get in a mess, I like to have that freedom. Whereas I'm carrying big debt and I'm just living from paycheck to paycheck, you can't do that. So as far as the farm, we're sitting pretty good because we've paid down a lot of debt over the years. But as far as going ahead, see a big expansion because I don't want the debt load.
Thank you for watching, and if you like this episode, please consider liking and subscribing.